Hi everybody, happy Thursday. Welcome to Lunchtime Live. I hope you're all having a great week. I am Pia from Stitches and Scraps, and this is episode 53. So today we're going to take a look at crochet loop edgings, and I'm actually going to do this as a two-part demo. So I'll do one demo this week and then one demo next week in that Lunchtime Live. So for those of you who are new, what is Lunchtime Live? Lunchtime Live is basically my video newsletter. So I'll first be talking about what's new on the blog, what's going on, what's coming up for next week, and then we'll end the session with a quick demo of usually a knit or crochet technique. Today we're doing loop edgings. So I know that things get called different things when you look online on tutorials. The loop edging that I'm talking about is not the two-color twisted loops. That is what I'm going to do next week. This week I'm going to do just basic one-color loopy edgings. Okay, so what's going on at Stitches and Scraps this week? Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, if you're new, everything that I talk about, you can find links to it in the description on this video. There is a link to a blog post. In that blog post, it lists all the links for everything that I'm talking about. So you can go there to find all the patterns, tutorials, everything that I mentioned. So what's new this week? Well, the Lion Fridge magnet is our newest magnet in the Magnets Crochet Along. So that one came out this week, and actually the mane is made with the kind of loopy edgings that I'm going to show you today. So that just came out this week. With that, that's part of the Fridgie's Crochet Along, right? We're starting a new quarter because it's July. So that means a new giveaway. So we have, for that giveaway, and I've used some of this so it's a little floppy, but Lion Brand Date Nights yarn. Excuse me, sorry. Lion Brand Date Nights yarn. This yarn is super fun to work with, and I've just finished, like literally just sewn on the button for a new pattern in it, which is going to be coming out next week. Right here, sneak peek. This is I'm calling it the Date Night Clutch. I've still got to do a lining. I want to make that a felt lined clutch, so I'm going to do that next week. I'm sorry, you guys, my throat. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, so that's what's new on the blog right now. The other thing to remember is today is the deadline for voting for the Cgoa board. So if you have not yet voted for board members and you're a member of the Cgoa, definitely get up there and do that today. Today's the deadline. If you are not a member of the Cgoa and you do crochet, you should be a member of the Cgoa. That's my plug. Look them up at crochet.org. Great organization. I've met most of my industry contacts through there. Most of the crocheters I know I've met through there. Hobbyists, designers, everybody. So it's a great way to meet people in the industry. So what else? Okay, coming up for next week will be that clutch pattern, and then also at the bottom of this, the way this is bound off is called a 3-needle bind off, and it creates this nice little edge. I have a tutorial I've just recorded for doing that, which I hope to get out in this coming week as well. So I think that's about it for news. Let's go on to the demo portion. And today I'm going to show you how to do loopy edgings, kind of like the way I made this mane. Actually, very much like the way I made this mane, but all the different kind of variations that you can play with to get different looks. So the basic idea of a loop style edging is that you hang on, let's get to the end of the row. There you go. That you start in one stitch, either with a single crochet or a slip stitch or something. You start in one stitch, you chain a bunch of chains, and then you end in a stitch. It can be the same stitch, another stitch, etc. So let's look at some options. This edging here, the back part of the mane was done with slip stitch, chain 5, and then slip stitch in the same stitch, and then you moved on to the next stitch and did the same thing. So slip stitch, chain 5, slip stitch, okay? The front part of the mane, so that it got a layered look and wasn't exactly the same, is the same thing but with a chain 3. Hi Kendra, good to see you, I'm glad you joined. So this is the same thing but with a chain 3. So you slip stitch, chain 3, and slip stitch, okay? And you can see that that changes the height of your chain loop, right? Well, let's play with that and take that to the extreme. Hi Beth, good to see you. What if we did a slip stitch, chain, I don't know, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, some really large number. 11, 12, 13, 14, I'm going too fast, 15, okay? And then slip stitch back in the same spot. Well, if you keep doing that all the way around, you get this really fun long fringe. So if I did that in the next stitch and I went, you know, a whole bunch of chains, I'm not even counting, but I went a whole bunch of chains and then slip stitch in the same stitch again. If you keep doing that, and especially if you do more than one loop per stitch, you get this cool loopy fringe that goes across. Now, one thing about these loops, they will catch fingers and toes. So you definitely don't want to do a big loop like this on a blanket edge. This kind of thing could be okay on a blanket edge, but this kind of thing I would keep for, like, I don't know, a table runner or a wall hanging or something like that where fingers aren't going to get caught in it. I'd probably be scared about doing it on a scarf even. But it's a cool edging for things that aren't going to catch fingers and toes, basically. So that's one way you can vary your loops, is to make them taller. Another way you can vary your loops is to make them wider. So suppose, let's go back to our chain 5. Okay, I have been oh, I gotta go to the next stitch, sorry. Let's go in the next stitch with a slip stitch and then go back to our chain 5. Now I've been showing you slip stitch in the same stitch, right? What if we slip stitched in the next stitch? Or what if we skipped a stitch and slip stitched in the next stitch? Well, now we have these nice wide loops, okay? And that gives you a neat little scalloped edging. I just gave my mom her birthday gift, which took me a month, and is this for the lion? This is tangentially for the lion, and cool, congratulations on the birthday gift, Kendra. This is tangentially for the lion because the lion mane was made with these baby chain loops that I showed you right at the beginning. So here you can see this is the chain 5 slip stitch in the same stitch chain loop, and this is the chain 3 slip stitch in the same stitch chain loop. So I'm starting there. But now we're moving on to other fun things you can do with the chain loops to get different looks. So this kind of a look is a wider chain loop that goes across more stitches. And that makes a pretty scalloped edge, which, depending on how big it is, again, is pretty for, I've seen this on like hats. It's really pretty, and I've seen it on scarves, on shawls. It's a really pretty edging for that, right? Now, if you make it too wide, so suppose I've got, let's do a chain 3, right? But then let's go and skip like 5 or 6 stitches, okay? If you want to make something that wide, you're going to end up with pleats unless you also increase the number of chains. So remember, with making wide loops, you have to make an appropriate number of chains to get the height and the width you want. So this one, we skipped 1 stitch in the middle and then went in the next stitch, right? Let's see what what happens if I make that a chain 9, say, instead of a chain 5. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I made it a chain 9 and did the same thing, skipped 1 and then slip stitch in the next stitch, now I've got a loop that is both taller and wider, okay? So you can adjust the height and the width of your chain loops by doing it this way, by increasing chains or by skipping over stitches, okay? Now, where would this be useful? Well, these ones I told you are a pretty decorative edge for just about anything because they're not going to catch on anything, right? Fringe is good for anything that's not going to be catching on fingers and toes, like, so not a blanket, nothing for kids, probably decor type stuff. This is probably safe for kids, but I would, you know, be careful about it. This is going to be too much. But what these are really useful for is, and these ones in particular, is for joining blanket squares. Because watch this. Okay, let me see if I can figure out a way to show this to you. I don't have another swatch. Okay, I'm going to make a couple of chain 3 loops here. Or sorry, chain 5 loops. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Or sorry, 1, 2. There we go. Okay, so suppose this was on the edge of a blanket square, right? Now I've got my second blanket square and I'm coming along to join it, okay? I'm gonna make this the second blanket square. So bear with me, this is one blanket square, this is the second blanket square, okay? So now if I wanna join these 2 blanket squares, when I make the chain loop, I can connect it here. So instead of chaining 5, I'm going to chain 2 and then do a slip stitch to connect it to this chain loop, and then chain 2 and come back, skip the 1 stitch, slip stitch down here, okay? Then again, chain 2, slip stitch in this next chain loop, then come back, skip 1 and slip stitch down here, okay? And remember, I'm pretending these are 2 separate blanket squares, so just pretend with me if you don't mind. That's a very long chain loop, and then slip stitch here, okay? Now you can see what happens is you get this crisscross kind of a join between the 2 pieces. So that's a really fun use of chain loops to join the 2 pieces together. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to... Yep, I think that's about it. So that was the stuff that I wanted to show you about how to join or how to use chain loop edgings or chain loops on your edging. I like a combination of these small little chain loops, and they're almost like picots, right? So I like a combination of chain loops with some stitches in between, kind of like you would use picots. But if you did, okay, let me finish this whole piece with the chain 3 edging, because this I think is the prettiest, okay? So chain 3, slip stitch, and remember, a picot is chain 3, slip stitch in the stitch you just made, right? Whereas these chain loops, I'm slip stitching in the stitch we just worked into. So it's a slight difference here. But if I keep doing that, and if anybody has any questions, pop them in the chat real quick while I'm doing this, and I will get back to you. Now this is going to ruffle a bit, okay? If you want it not to ruffle, you can skip stitches in between. So I could slip stitch in this one, then slip stitch in this one, and then do another chain 3 loop, okay? So you can put space between your loops as well. Okay, one more and then I'll show you what I've got. All right, so you can see that's such a pretty edging, right, for just about anything, and it looks so cute, especially on a kid's hat. If you can imagine, if this is the brim of the hat, and these little almost picots are kind of hanging down from it. So I'd say this is like a cheater way to do a picot edge that's a little bit faster. What is the difference looking for the chain 3 border and say a fringe or tassels? Okay, so a fringe, a normal fringe or tassels, let me do a couple of fringy loops and then I'll show you the difference. I'll actually do a tassel. Okay, so let's get away from the edge here. Okay, so a fringy loop, like I showed you before, would be like lots and lots and lots and lots of chains, and then slip stitch in the same stitch, and then lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of chains, and then slip stitch in the same stitch, right? Oh, that's not enough chains. I need more lots. Lots and lots and lots. Okay, and slip stitch in the same stitch. Okay, so you get this fringe this way, right? Now a normal fringe, I'm going to cut this now. Where's my cutter? There it is. We'll do a very quick fringe tutorial, guys. Okay. Boop. All right. So let's make some fringe. What do I have that I can wrap around? I'll just wrap around my fingers. Okay. So to make a fringe, you cut several pieces of yarn that are the same length. So I'm cheating here. I'm just using my fingers, but I'm going to cut. I want to show you a tassel too. So several pieces of yarn that are the same length. And I don't have scissors over here, so I'm cutting these with my cutter, which is not the most efficient, but it will do. It's going to give us kind of a frayed fringe, sorry. Yes, it does work to cut big bundles of yarn with this. It's just not fun. There we go. Okay. So there's some pieces that I can use for my fringe, right? So if I was making a fringe, I might take 2 or 3 pieces in every stitch. The fewer pieces you take and the closer you place them, the more even and flat your fringe will be. And then I'll show you a tassel in a minute. But to do a fringe, I would pull these through, right? Hang on, let me back it up. I put these together, okay? Form a loop with them, right? Insert my hook where I want them to be, okay? And then pull that loop through, right? Now I've got a loop sticking out of my fabric. Now I'm going to take these ends and pull all the ends through that loop. And sometimes it's just easier with your fingers. So I stick my fingers in here, grab those ends and pull them through. So that is how I would do fringe or a mini tassel, right? So you can see this has open ends. This is not going to catch your fingers. This has closed ends. This is going to catch your fingers, okay? This is going to fray. This will not fray. It's just a completely different look. It's a different type of fringe that you can do. A tassel, generally a tassel is bigger, and suppose I took like this whole bundle here of ends and I folded it over, okay? Then you take another piece of this yarn and you wrap it around. Now you want to keep this end, so some people will actually stick a hook in there to make sure that that stays, or they'll stick something in there to make sure that that stays open. And then you take the yarn, and I don't do a lot of tassels. They're good on like curtains and stuff, but I don't do a lot of that stuff. And then you wrap the yarn a bunch of times, right? Okay, and then to make that yarn stay, you're going to take it and either tie a knot or sew it down through that wrap. I'll sew it down through the wrap real quick here. My yarn is so frayed. This is my demo yarn because it looks good on the camera and it's a good contrast, so I've used it a lot. But yeah, you can sew this down through the tassel like that. You can go back up once or twice if you want, and then just cut the end to be part of the ends that are coming out of the tassel. Okay, so now you have this tassel, and you can actually put an end through here. I should have left my hook in there, shouldn't I? There we go. Let's do that. Okay. You can actually put a string through here to tie it or sew it on with right there. And there you have your tassel. So that is the difference between a tassel, fringe, and loops. Did that answer your question, Kendra? I'll wait for Kendra to answer, but I think that's all that I have for you today, unless there's any other questions. So I will leave you with that. And now next week, what I'm going to show you how to do, and I know some of you have seen this already on like the peppermint Christmas ornaments and stuff. I'm going to show you how to make loops that go like one loop in one color goes like this, and then another loop goes inside it like this and twists around it. So you end up with loops that are twisted over each other in multiple colors. It's a really cool look. I will show you how to do that next week, and I do it a little bit differently than most of the tutorials I've seen. So I'll show you my way, and I'll show you the way that most people that I've seen have done it. But that is it for today. Oh, good. I answered your question. Awesome. Can I do a live sometime on shell stitch? Absolutely, Kendra. You know what might help, actually? I did a live on V-stitches, and shells are very much like V's with extra stitches in them, and I think I talked about that in the live. So if you look back, I want to say it was 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, just go to my Lunchtime Live playlist and look for the one that was on V-stitches, and you'll see like a little intro to what shells basically are. And then yes, next week I'm doing the loops, but the week after I will do a shell stitch demo for you. So join me for that. And that's all I have today. So I will say bye, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.